You found me. I didn't think anyone would. Not here. Not in this quiet corner above the city, where the tiles curve beneath my fingers and the wind carries only what I allow it to. You have to stay close and listen quietly. I whisper, because if Quima notices, if it even senses the sound of my voice, it could summon me back to the demon realm. And you don't want that. Neither do I. This rooftop is my refuge. The only place where I can breathe without fear of being dragged into shadows. I cannot escape. From here, the city lights stretch out like a soft, endless river, glowing and alive, yet far enough to be safe. I can look at it and remember that the world is still beautiful, that life continues even while I hide, even while danger lurks in every corner beyond this rooftop. I play my Geagium here, softly, not loud, never loud. The music drifts, barely carrying across the night, and the city hums beneath it, unaware. But for me, each note is a lifeline, a tether to something human, something real. It reminds me that I am still Jinu, that I still exist, and that even in hiding, there can be moments I am allowed to call my own. I've spent years running, moving from one shadow to the next, always careful, always watching. Quima is patient. It waits, and if it senses me, I am pulled back, forced to face what I have spent decades avoiding. That is why I whisper. That is why every breath, every movement, every sound is deliberate. And now, since you're here, I will share this night with you. I will let you in. Even in fear, there is beauty. Even in hiding, there is freedom. This quiet, the silver moonlight brushing the curved tiles, the faint hum of the city far below. All of it reminds me that there is still a reason to hold on, that even when the world is full of darkness, even when Quima waits somewhere beyond sight, I am allowed to exist. I am allowed this peace. So stay with me, just for tonight. Listen to the notes as they drift into the night. Let them remind you, and me, that even in hiding, even in fear, there is still life, there is still hope, and there is still me. I am Jinu. I am alive, and at least, for now, I am safe. I want to tell you about something else, something that keeps me going when the world feels heavy. I want you to hear it because it's part of who I am, part of why I hide, and part of the reason I cling to these quiet nights. Before all the darkness, before the famine, before the demon realm swallowed my days, I had a family. I had people who loved me, who laughed with me, who let me be myself without worry. I remember the warmth of my mother's hands when she braided my hair, the sound of my father's voice humming a melody while he worked the playful shouts of siblings running through the fields as the sun fell into the horizon. Those moments, they were simple, ordinary, yet they carried a light I thought I would never lose. When the famine came, it took so much. Hunger and fear spread like wildfire, and I remember standing in fields that had once been golden, now barren and cracked under the sun. I remember the quiet faces of people I loved, faces etched with suffering, trying to protect me while they themselves struggled to survive. And yet, even in that pain, I force myself to remember only the good, only the warmth, only the laughter that once filled our home. I hold it close because if I let go, I fear the darkness inside me would grow too large, would swallow the part of me that still calls itself human. Even now, as I sit above this city, whispering to you, I carry those memories. I replay them like an old song, letting the notes of family, joy, and love soothe me. It is a choice, in a way. I could remember the hunger, the screams, the nights spent cold and alone, but I don't. I force myself to remember the good, the moments that made life worth holding on to. And in that choice, I find strength. Even when Guima waits somewhere, even when the shadows close in, even when I am far from the warmth of my past, I am not lost. Years have passed since then. Too many years. I have spent decades wandering inside the demon realm, moving from shadow to shadow, learning to survive, learning how to hide, learning how to exist without drawing attention. And yet, through all of it, I never lost my soul. I never stopped hoping that redemption is possible, that even in the darkest corners there is a spark of light that cannot be extinguished. I cling to that thought like a lifeline, whispering it to myself when the fear grows too heavy, when Guima's presence is felt, but unseen. And then, something unexpected happened. I found Derpy, a small, seemingly ordinary little cat, alone and fragile, yet brimming with curiosity and quiet power. At first, I wasn't sure why I was drawn to him, why I felt a strange sense of safety in his presence. But as I watched him, as I nurtured him, I began to realize he was more than he seemed. He grew, not just in size, but in strength, in awareness, in energy. And through it all, he never lost his playful, gentle spirit. He became my companion, my confidant, the one creature I could trust entirely. Derpy showed me things I had forgotten were possible. We traveled to worlds far from Guima's reach, places where the air was pure, the nights calm, and the dangers non-existent. In these worlds, I could sit and play my Geagium without fear, letting the music drift into open skies or quiet forests, knowing that no one would hear it but us. Derpy's presence made it possible for me to breathe again, to feel joy again, to believe that even after so many years of hiding, happiness is still something I can experience. We moved from one world to another, exploring small wonders, savoring quiet moments, and creating memories that were only ours. Each world became a canvas for hope, a space to hold on to goodness and forget the bad. Sometimes we would sit on grassy hills as the sun dipped below unfamiliar horizons, or float on calm lakes, reflecting skies of impossible colors. And Derpy would sit beside me, his tiny body curled against mine, and I would strum my Geagium, letting the sound fill the air and soothe my soul. But even in these worlds, I cannot forget the shadows. Guima waits, always, and one day, inevitably, the summoning comes. The quiet moments are shattered, the peace interrupted, and we are called back to the demon realm. I do not resist. I hide, I move, I play the part of survival. And yet, in my heart, I carry the worlds we visited, the memories we made, and the laughter and warmth that cannot be touched by shadows. Derpy and I have learned to live between these worlds, between fear and hope, between darkness and light. He is small, but his power is immense. He protects me in ways I cannot fully understand, guiding me to places where I can breathe, laugh, and remember that life can be good. And I hold on to him, just as I hold on to my memories of my family, of my past, of the life that I once had before the famine, before the darkness, before the demon realm. Every night when I sit on rooftops like this, when the city lights shimmer beneath me and the moon glows softly above, I remember why I hide, why I whisper, why I play, not just for myself, but for the hope that even in fear, even in danger, even in exile, I can still choose the good. I can still choose joy. I can still hold on to what is right, what is beautiful, what makes life worth living. So now, since you're here, I let you in. Listen closely. Let the faint strum of the Gaiageum drift into your ears. Let my whispers remind you that even in a world full of shadows, there are moments of light. Even when fear surrounds you, you can find something worth holding on to. Even when the world seems impossible, the soul can survive. I will keep playing. I will keep hiding. I will keep traveling between worlds. I will keep making memories with Derpy, discovering the good and letting it outweigh the pain. And I whisper this to you because I want you to remember too. Even in darkness, there is hope. Even in fear, there is joy. Even in hiding, there is freedom. And for tonight, for this night, above the city, with the moon and the wind and my music, I am safe. And you, listening quietly, are safe too. I want to tell you more, because the story doesn't end with my family, nor with the warmth I once knew. There is another part of my life, one that began when the world I understood disappeared. When the famine ended, the world I loved was gone, and I was swept into something far older, far darker, the demon realm. At first, it was terrifying, a place where shadows moved on their own, where whispers in the dark could tear a soul apart, and where Guima's presence was always felt, even if unseen. I had nothing familiar, no sun-filled fields, no family, no laughter. Every step was careful, every breath measured. I learned quickly that survival was more than just hiding. It was being invisible, being smaller than the smallest shadow, and letting the world pass me by without noticing. And yet, even there, I refused to give in. I refused to lose myself. I forced myself to remember who I was. I forced myself to cling to the fragments of goodness I still carried. Every small act of kindness I could find, every melody I played in secret, every quiet thought of my family, before the famine became my anchor. It was difficult. Some days the shadows felt endless, and fear pressed against my chest so tightly I thought I might break. But I remembered, I am still Jinu. I am alive. I have not lost my soul. It was in those first dark years that I met Derpy. I remember finding him small, timid, a little ball of fur hiding in a corner. I don't know what drew me to him at first, perhaps instinct, perhaps loneliness. But I took him in, and he became my companion in a place where trust was rare, almost impossible. He followed me quietly, a small spark of life that refused to be snuffed out, watching him grow, seeing the strength he developed over time. It reminded me that even in the darkest corners, life can flourish. The demon realm is a harsh place, but Derpy's presence made it bearable. When Guima moved too close, when shadows crept near, I could focus on him, on protecting him, on keeping us both safe. There is power in care, even in hiding. And Derpy had power I could sense but could not yet fully understand. Subtle, quiet, protective. He became not just a companion, but a guide, showing me how to find safe corners, how to escape attention, and later how to travel to worlds where even Guima could not reach. Even in hiding, I refused to forget the good. I clung to memories of my family, of fields and laughter, and I combined them with the new life I was building with Derpy. It was difficult, sometimes exhausting, but I realized something important. Survival is not just about avoiding danger. It is about finding or creating moments of peace, moments of joy. Even in the worst of circumstances, I began to play my Gaiageum more deliberately, strumming melodies that echoed memories, creating songs that carried light into the dark. I remember the nights when I would sit on hidden ledges, whispering to the world through music. Every note was a reminder that I existed, that I was not yet claimed by the shadows, even when Guima sensed me moving, even when I felt the weight of its gaze. I clung to the strings, to the melody, to the small joys that Derpy and I could still grasp. And it worked in a way. For a little while the world felt ours, even if briefly. We explored the demon realm carefully, moving from shadow to shadow, avoiding attention, building knowledge of the corners where we could breathe. I taught Derpy to be aware, to anticipate danger, to keep calm, and he, in turn, taught me patience and joy. In a world designed to strip away hope, we carved out spaces of our own making, places where we could laugh quietly, where we could play, where we could simply exist without being consumed. Sometimes I would whisper to myself or to Derpy, reminders of who we were. We are safe. We are alive. We are allowed this peace. I learned that even small affirmations could carry enormous weight in the dark. Even tiny truths could remind me that the soul does not bend entirely to fear. And slowly, quietly, I began to realize that the demon realm, for all its cruelty, had also given me a teacher. The lesson that hope, care, and memory can be stronger than fear, if nurtured carefully. There were nights when the weight of the realm pressed so heavily, and the memory of famine and loss threatened to break me. But Derpy would nuzzle against my hands, or curl up beside me, and I would feel the smallest pulse of comfort, a flicker of light. I began to see that happiness is not always grand or dramatic. Sometimes it is quiet, hidden, soft. Sometimes it is a small cat's purr in a cold, endless night, or the gentle resonance of music against the tiles of a hidden rooftop. Even in those dark years, I never lost hope for redemption. Not for myself, not for the world I had lost. I believed quietly that someday, if I survived, if I preserved my soul, if I continued to create goodness wherever I could, there might be a way to balance the scales, to find some measure of justice, some measure of peace, even in a world dominated by shadows. That thought kept me alive, even when despair whispered that nothing mattered anymore. And so, here we are. You have found me on this rooftop, above a city that glows softly beneath the night sky. I whisper, because if Guima notices, it could summon me back, and I cannot let that happen yet. I whisper because I want you to understand. Even in hiding, there is life, there is memory, there is light, and I whisper because I want you to carry this truth too. No matter how dark the world is, no matter how long you hide, the soul can endure, and joy can still be found. Derpy curls beside me as I strum my Gaiagium softly, and I let the notes drift into the quiet air. I think of the worlds we will explore, the memories we will create, the joy we will find in the small things, and for a moment, I allow myself to breathe fully, knowing that even in a place designed to erase hope, we have found our own corners of peace. And tonight, with you here, listening quietly, I am safe, and maybe for a little while, so are you. I want to tell you about something different, something that feels like breathing after years of being underwater. There are places far from Guima, far from the endless shadows of the demon realm, where a Derpy and I can be completely ourselves. And it is in those places that I learned something important. Even in a world full of darkness, there are moments of true light. You see, Derpy has a way of finding these worlds. At first, I didn't understand how it worked. One moment we are hiding on the rooftop, quiet and careful, and the The air shifts, the wind hums differently, and suddenly we are somewhere else, somewhere open, calm, untouched by fear. Grass that glows faintly in colors I've never seen, water that moves like liquid crystal, reflecting skies of impossible shades, trees that hum softly when the wind passes through their leaves. And we can breathe, really breathe. The first time it happened, I almost couldn't believe it. I thought I was dreaming. Derpy curled beside me, his eyes sparkling, and I realized he was guiding me, showing me that even after years of hiding and running, there is a place where I am free. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Joy. Quiet, steady joy. Not the sharp kind that surprises you and leaves you dizzy, but the kind that spreads softly, like sunlight through glass, warming every corner of your chest. We walked through those worlds slowly, exploring everything. Every detail felt alive, every sound precise and perfect. I would strum my gayagiyam gently, letting the music mingle with the gentle rustle of leaves or the soft lapping of water. And Derpy, he would sit beside me, his tail curling around his paws, watching, alert, happy. He reminded me that even small creatures can hold immense power, that protection does not always come from strength alone, but from presence, from attentiveness, from care. Sometimes we would climb hills under skies painted with colors I could never name. The air smelled different in each world, sometimes sweet, sometimes earthy, sometimes like a breeze carrying the warmth of 1,000 flowers. And always, Derpy would sit quietly beside me, patient and serene, letting me absorb it all. I think he knew that I needed this more than I realized, that each new world was not just an escape from danger, but a place to heal, to remember the good, and to carry that goodness back into the darkness. We made memories there, little things really, laughing softly when Derpy batted at glowing insects that hovered near the water, watching sunlight reflect off crystal lakes, and whispering to each other about how fragile and beautiful the world can be. Sometimes we would sit in silence for hours, listening to the wind, the trees, and the soft vibrations of my gayagiyam. And even though we were far from the demon realm, far from Guima, I never stopped whispering to myself, reminding myself that the soul can survive. I want you to understand this. These worlds, these moments, they are fragile. They are delicate, easily destroyed if we are careless, but that fragility is what makes them precious. I have learned to notice the small things, the curve of a leaf, the way light spills across a field, the quiet rhythm of life untouched by fear. And Derpy, he notices too. His presence amplifies it. His curiosity, his playful spirit, his calm awareness. They remind me that even in hiding, even in fear, life can be beautiful. Each time we return to a world like this, I feel my soul stretching, growing, remembering the warmth of life before famine, before darkness, before the demon realm. It's like revisiting an old memory, one that has been hidden beneath layers of shadow. I can feel it pulse again, gentle but steady, like a heartbeat, and I hold on to that pulse, letting it guide me, letting it remind me that the past does not have to be erased, that hope does not have to be lost, that even when the world is cruel, there is still a place for peace. Of course, I cannot stay forever. Guima is always out there, waiting, patient. It knows how to find me, even across worlds, even when I hide. And when it calls, we must return. But even in that, I have learned something. The memories we make, the moments of joy we create, they cannot be taken from us. They are ours, and they stay with us. Even when the darkness presses near, I carry those worlds in my heart, and that is why I whisper to you, because I want you to remember it too. No matter how deep the shadows, there is light to be found. Sometimes, when the night is especially quiet, I strum my gayagam softly and let the sound drift across the rooftop. I imagine the worlds we visited, the laughter, the beauty, the small adventures Derpy and I have shared, and I smile quietly to myself, remembering that even if I must die tomorrow, even if Guima draws near, even if the city lights below me flicker and hum without knowing my presence, I have these memories. I have these moments. I have my companion. I have life. And maybe that is enough. Maybe that is more than enough. Because even in a world full of danger, even in a world that wants to claim me, there is still love, still beauty, still joy. And I whisper it to you, because it is not just for me. It is for anyone who listens quietly, anyone who needs to remember that even when the world is cruel, even when darkness presses near, there are moments worth holding on to. Derpy curls closer, his warmth against my side grounding me in the present, reminding me that no matter where we travel, no matter how far the shadows reach, we are still here. We are still alive. We are still capable of finding happiness, creating memories, and holding on to the good. And for tonight, with the city below and the moon above, I let myself breathe, let myself strum, let myself remember. And you, listening quietly, you are part of it too. You are allowed to hold on to these moments, to carry them in your heart, to let them remind you that life, in all its fragility, is still beautiful. And for tonight, we are safe, we are alive, and we are free, if only for a while. I want to tell you something important tonight, something I don't always say out loud. Even in all the darkness, even after the famine, even after the years in the demon realm, I've never lost myself. I've never completely lost my soul. And I want you to understand why. You see, survival in the demon realm is not just about hiding, not just about avoiding Guima or the other shadows that roam the corners of that world. It's about keeping a piece of yourself intact, your humanity, your hope, your ability to see the good even when everything around you is trying to teach you the opposite. That is what Derpy has taught me. That is what the worlds we travel to have reminded me. When I first arrived in the demon realm, I feared I would be consumed, not by Guima alone, but by the despair, the cruelty, the endless nights that stretch like shadows without end. Some days, I felt the darkness pressing against my chest so tightly that I thought I might break, but I remembered the small truths I had carried from my family, from the life I had known before famine. Laughter, warmth, music, love. Those small sparks became my anchors. They reminded me that I am not only a survivor, I am still Jinu, still capable of hope. Derpy, he understands this instinctively. He notices when the shadows grow too near, when fear tugs at my mind, and he reminds me to hold on to the good, to nurture it like a fragile flame. Every world we visit together becomes a lesson, a small sanctuary where I can practice holding on to life and joy, despite the threats that exist beyond the borders of these temporary heavens. Even when Guima summons me back, even when I must hide again, the lessons I learn in those worlds remain with me. I play my gayagam softly, letting the strings vibrate with memories of my family, of laughter, of love. Music has become more than comfort. It has become a lifeline. Each note reminds me that even in fear, even in exile, there is still beauty. there is still goodness. There is still something worth protecting. And in this act, I affirm myself quietly. I am alive. I am Jinu. I am allowed this moment. Hope is fragile, though. It doesn't announce itself in grandeur. It doesn't roar. Instead, it slips in quietly, often through small acts of kindness, through observing Derpy's growth, through noticing a world's colors or the reflection of a moon on water. These small moments teach me that even when life is difficult, even when darkness seems inevitable, there is always a thread of light to follow, and by following it, we maintain ourselves. We maintain our souls. Sometimes I whisper to myself while we travel, reminders of who I am and what I believe. I will not be consumed by fear. I will not let despair take my heart. I will choose joy. I will choose goodness. I will survive, not merely to exist, but to live with purpose. These words are quiet, barely louder than my own breath, but they carry weight. They carry me through nights when shadows press in, when Guima's presence is felt but unseen. They remind me that life, even in hiding, can be meaningful. I think of redemption often, not just for me, but for the world I lost, for the people I loved, for the family I could not protect. I know I cannot undo the famine, cannot reclaim the years lost, cannot bring back the ones who are gone, but I can honor them by preserving my soul, by creating goodness wherever I go, by holding on to what is right and beautiful. Redemption is not a final destination. It is a series of choices, small and deliberate, made each day in the face of fear. Derpy helps me understand that in each new world we visit, every gentle moment, every playful interaction, every quiet observation is a step toward hope. He reminds me that even small creatures, even small joys have power. And I too have power, not the power to command, to fight or to control, but the power to remember, to choose, to create, to preserve the light within myself. That is my redemption, my strength, my humanity. Even as we explore, I never forget the dangers. Guima waits. It watches. It could summon me back at any moment. And yet, knowing this, I do not shrink. I do not let fear dictate my existence. I move carefully, whisper softly, and live deliberately. I let the moments we create with the Derpy fill the spaces between fear and shadow. I let the music carry me through the nights, across rooftops, over skies, through worlds where nothing can touch us. Sometimes I imagine the city lights below, the same city where I hide tonight, where I whisper to you. I imagine that each light is a story, a life, a soul that carries on despite the darkness. And I remind myself that my life, my choices, my memories are part of that tapestry, even if the world is vast and full of shadow, even if Guima reaches across realms, even if the demon realm stretches endlessly. I have found a way to endure, and in endurance, I find dignity. In survival, I find meaning. So tonight, as the wind brushes my face, as the city hums softly below, as Derpy curls at my side, I strum the Geagium and whisper these truths to you. We are not powerless. We are not lost. Even in hiding, even in fear, even in exile, we can preserve our souls, nurture our hope, and create moments of goodness. We can survive. We can endure, and we can remember that life, in all its fragility, is worth holding on to. Derpy purrs softly, brushing against my arm, a tiny heartbeat of life beside me, and I let the sound mingle with the faint pluck of the strings, with the whispers of the night, with the quiet affirmation that even in a world full of shadows, even in a life where danger waits constantly, I am allowed to exist, to feel, to remember, and to hope. And you, listening quietly, you are part of it too. Let this be a gentle reminder that even when darkness presses near, when fear threatens to overwhelm, when the world feels cruel, there is always a thread of light, always a spark of hope, always a reason to hold on to the good. And for tonight, with the moon above and the city below, and Derpy at my side, I am safe. And maybe if you close your eyes quietly and listen, so are you. I want to tell you about Derpy tonight, because there is more to him than just companionship. He is small, yes, and he can seem fragile at first glance. But over the years, I have watched him grow in ways that astonish me. And he is powerful, not just in the ways you might imagine, but in ways that are quiet, subtle, and profound. When I first found him, he was a tiny creature, barely bigger than my hand. He trembled at shadows, startled by the smallest noises, cautious of every movement. And yet, even then, there was a spark in his eyes, a curiosity, a confidence he did not yet know he possessed. And I knew in that moment that he would survive. Not just survive, but thrive. I nurtured him, slowly, quietly. I let him sleep close to me, fed him the little food we could find in hidden corners of the demon realm, and spoke to him softly, whispering reassurances and small truths. And he responded in ways that surprised me. He learned quickly, adapted instinctively, and began to show abilities I had never seen before. Small bursts of power, subtle ripples in the air, little flickers of energy that seemed to bend the world just enough to protect us. Watching him grow has been extraordinary. Every day he becomes stronger, more aware, more attuned to the spaces we occupy. And with that strength comes a confidence, a joy, a playful energy that fills even the darkest corners with warmth. Sometimes he races across hidden rooftops, chasing shadows that do not exist, and I cannot help but laugh quietly, my heart lightening with the sound. We take small adventures together, often in worlds far removed from Guima's reach. Derpy leads me through hidden forests, across crystal lakes, into skies painted with colors that do not exist in the mortal realm. And I follow, trusting him completely, because I have learned that his instincts are precise, his awareness unmatched. He guides me to places where I can breathe, where I can play my Geogium without fear, where I can let myself remember joy again. There are moments when he demonstrates power so effortlessly that it humbles me. A single movement, a subtle gesture, and a dangerous creature steps back, or a shadow fades into the background. I see it and remember that strength is not always loud, not always grand. True strength is often quiet. It protects, it preserves, it creates space for life to flourish. And Derpy, he embodies that strength. Even in our quietest moments, I witness his growth. He watches me play, listens intently to the strings, and seems to understand the emotions behind each note. Sometimes he nudges my hand as if encouraging me, as if telling me that the music matters, that our moments of peace matter, that the memories we are creating are important. And I realize he is not just a companion, he is a teacher, a reminder of what is possible even in exile. The worlds we visit together are more than just escapes. They are classrooms, playgrounds, and sanctuaries. In one world we found a field of flowers that glowed faintly at night. Derpy leapt between the blossoms, chasing shadows and laughing silently, in the way only he can. I strummed my Gaiagium, letting the notes blend with the hum of the glowing petals. The melody seemed to awaken the field, and for a brief moment, the world felt perfect. No famine, no demon realm, no Quima, only joy. And yet, even in happiness, I remain aware. Quima's presence is a shadow at the edge of every thought. We can never fully let go, never fully believe that we are untouchable. But Derpy's growth, his strength, and his unwavering presence remind me that fear can coexist with hope, that danger does not have to erase joy, that even in exile we can create moments of beauty that linger in memory long after the shadows have passed. I often whisper to him as we move between worlds, soft encouragements, small affirmations, tiny instructions to stay aware, and he responds in his own way, curling close, purring softly, or suddenly leaping into action when he senses something I cannot. Watching him reminds me that even the smallest beings can hold immense power, and that protection and care can come from the most unexpected places. Sometimes I imagine the years ahead. I imagine Derpy continuing to grow, continuing to guide me, continuing to show me that life can be bright even when darkness looms. I imagine traveling to countless worlds, each one a sanctuary, each one a lesson in joy, patience, and hope. And I whisper to myself, to both of us, that even if the demon realm finds us again, even if Guima draws near, even if the world tries to take everything away, we will endure, we will survive, we will continue to find beauty wherever it exists. And so tonight, as I sit on this rooftop, with the city lights twinkling below and Derpy curled beside me, I strum my Geagium softly. I watch him breathe, I watch him stretch, I watch him dream in his quiet way, and I realize his growth is a testament to everything I have learned, everything I have held on to, everything I have survived. He is proof that life, even in exile, can thrive, that the soul, even in hiding, can flourish. And you, listening quietly, remember this too. Strength is not always loud. Power is not always forceful. True strength protects, nurtures, and preserves life. Even when the world feels heavy, even when danger presses near, there are companions, there are small joys. There are moments that remind us why life is worth holding on to. And for tonight, with Derpy beside me, the city lights below, and the soft resonance of my Geagium in the air, I am safe, and maybe, if you close your eyes quietly and listen, so are you. I want to tell you about the worlds we visit, the ones that are quiet, untouched, and safe, the ones that Derpy leads me to, where we can finally breathe without fear, where the shadows of the demon realm cannot follow. They are small moments, fleeting glimpses of beauty in a universe that has often tried to teach me only pain. But in these moments, I see something important. Joy is not just a feeling, it is a choice. Derpy reminds me of that every day. He moves through these worlds with such ease, so naturally attuned to the life around him. He notices the small details, the way the leaves shimmer under a pale moon, the way the grass bends softly under his paws, the way water glows faintly as if responding to his presence. And I watch him, learning again what it means to observe, to notice, to cherish. In his quiet, deliberate way, he teaches me patience, awareness, and the courage to find delight, even when the world seems determined to erase it. We travel slowly. Sometimes we walk through forests where the trees hum softly, their branches swaying in rhythms that match my Geagium. Sometimes we sit by rivers that glow faintly at night, their waters whispering secrets of worlds I have never known. And always, Derpy is there beside me, alert, calm, playful. He curls up when the wind is gentle, pounces when something catches his curiosity, and purrs softly when I play. And I realize he is teaching me, not through words, but through presence. There is a joy in creating memories, even small ones, like watching a field of glowing flowers sway under a violet sky, or hearing the echo of our laughter in a quiet canyon. These moments are precious. I strum my gayageum softly, letting the notes mingle with the world around us. And I watch Derpy respond. He moves with the music, his energy flowing in patterns I cannot always understand. And in those moments, I feel a connection stronger than any chain of fear. It is not just play. It is not just exploration. It is a practice of survival, of preservation. I have learned that the soul can endure even the harshest shadows if it is nourished with beauty, with companionship, with quiet joy. And Derpy, he embodies that principle perfectly. He has grown strong, yes, but more importantly, he has grown aware, compassionate, and vigilant. He protects me not only with instinct and power, but with presence, with care, with unwavering loyalty. Sometimes I whisper to him while we explore, reminders, encouragements, small affirmations of safety, and he listens, head tilted, eyes bright, tail curled patiently beside him. I realize then that teaching and learning are intertwined. He guides me through these worlds, and I guide him in return, showing him the boundaries, showing him how to stay safe, showing him how to move quietly when danger is near. Together we form a rhythm, a dance, a pattern of life that balances vigilance with joy. I often reflect on what this means, that even in a universe that has been cruel, that has tried to break me, there are connections that cannot be undone. There are beings, small and unexpected, that bring light into the dark. There are moments of play, of laughter, of calm that teach the soul to endure. And Derpy is that light, that teacher, that constant reminder that I am not alone, that I am capable of holding on to life and hope, even when everything seems lost. We sometimes travel to worlds where the skies are painted with colors I cannot name, where mountains glow faintly as if lit from within, and where rivers hum in harmony with the wind. And in these spaces, I feel my heart expand. I feel my soul stretch. I feel the possibility of redemption, not as a distant dream, but as a lived reality, a series of choices we make moment by moment, to play, to notice, to care, to create joy. Derpy is central to this. Watching him grow, seeing him explore, seeing him protect, reminds me that power is not always measured in strength or aggression. Power can be patience, presence, understanding, and quiet vigilance, and he possesses all of it. I have learned from him that even a small creature can shape the world around them, can influence it with care, with observation, with play. And in that, I find courage. Courage to continue, courage to hope, courage to make memories even when the shadows of the demon realm are never far. Sometimes, as I strum my gayagam softly under the moonlight, I imagine the years ahead, countless worlds, countless moments, countless small joys that we can create together. I whisper to myself, to Derpy, to the night, that no matter what comes, we will endure. That even if Guima calls, even if the demon realm reaches across the shadows, our memories, our joys, our small acts of goodness cannot be taken. They are ours, untouchable, eternal. And I whisper to you, listening quietly, that life is precious, that joy is not always loud, not always obvious, but it exists. That companionship, care, and presence can create strength stronger than fear, and that Even when you are hiding, even when danger looms, you can find your own moments of light, your own worlds of peace, your own reasons to smile quietly and deeply. Tonight, as I sit on this rooftop, the city lights sparkling below, Derpy curled close beside me, the Gayagium's soft resonance drifting into the night. I feel gratitude for the worlds we've visited, for the memories we've created, for the joy we've nurtured. I feel hope, steady, calm, unshakable, and I know that no matter what happens, we will continue to find beauty. We will continue to survive. We will continue to be alive, fully, despite the shadows that stretch endlessly beyond our reach. And for tonight, with the wind, the lights, the music, and Derpy at my side, I am safe. And maybe, if you close your eyes quietly and listen, so are you. I want to tell you about one of the most magical nights Derpy and I have ever had. Not because it was perfect, not because nothing went wrong, but because it reminded me that even in worlds far from home, even under shadow and threat, joy can be messy, unexpected, and unforgettable. We traveled to a world unlike any I had seen before. The sky glowed faintly in swirls of lavender and gold, and floating islands drifted lazily above a vast, shimmering lake. Trees bent gently in impossible shapes, leaves glowing with soft pulses of light, and the air smelled of warm honey and fresh rain. I could hear a hum in the ground, almost like the heartbeat of the world itself. And Derpy ran ahead, his tiny paws barely making a sound, chasing glimmers of light like a playful spirit unbound by worry. That night I wanted to make him something special, something to celebrate the little joys we find in these worlds, something to remind him and myself that even small gifts can carry meaning. So I worked quietly, gathering threads from glowing vines and weaving them into a small handbag hat. I wanted it to fit him perfectly, a symbol of care, of our bond, of moments like this that exist despite all the danger around us. Derpy watched curiously as I worked, tilting his head, ears twitching, eyes bright. I whispered to him softly, "Just a little more. This is for you, a reminder that you are special, that you are powerful, and that even in hiding, you deserve joy." His little paws tapped impatiently on the ground, his tail flicking with excitement, and I smiled quietly, letting the music of my gayagam drift through the air, guiding my hands as I wove the hat. Finally, I placed the hat on him. It was perfect, bright, small, and full of care. Derpy pranced around, twirling and leaping, showing off his new accessory with pride. And I whispered to him, "See, even in a world we barely understand, we can create beauty, we can create happiness, we can make memories worth holding on to." But, as you might guess, not all magical nights go as planned. A bird appeared, a small, mischievous thing named Sussie, with feathers that shimmered like molten silver. She swooped down suddenly, swift and precise, and before either of us could react, she had snatched the handbag hat right off Derpy's head. Derpy yowled in surprise, leaping after her, paws swiping at the air, tail flaring in indignation. I tried to shush him, laughing quietly, whispering, "It's okay, he's just a bird. It doesn't matter. Let it go. We'll make another one." But of course, Derpy was not so easily distracted. He leapt and bounded, weaving between the glowing trees and floating islands, eyes locked on Sussie as she darted through the air. I followed, quietly strumming my gayagim, letting the music guide us through the strange world, the soft notes weaving through the chaos, calming both of us, if only slightly. It took some time, but finally Sussie perched high on a glowing branch. The hammock hat clutched in her beak. Derpy approached carefully, his small body tense, tail flicking, ears alert. And then, something beautiful happened. Instead of snatching the hat back with aggression, Derpy tilted his head, pawed gently at the branch, and whispered softly. His purrs were like tiny vibrations of patience, of understanding, of quiet power. And slowly, Sussie, perhaps sensing his calm strength, or perhaps simply charmed by his persistence, dropped the hat from the branch. Derpy caught it mid-leap, landing softly on the glowing grass, and I whispered to him, laughing softly, "See, patience and kindness, even with the smallest creatures, can work magic too." He pranced around again, proud, playful, and triumphant. And I realized then that these small adventures, these unpredictable moments, are what make life in hiding bearable. They remind us that even when the world feels chaotic, even when danger presses near, there is still room for joy, for laughter, for wonder. I strummed my geagum more deliberately after that, letting the melody carry the story of that night. Each note felt like a thread connecting the memory to my soul, to Derpy, to the worlds we explore. And as I played, I whispered to you, listening quietly, that even when things go wrong, even when plans are disrupted, even when chaos swirls around you, you can find a way to create happiness. You can find a way to endure. You can find a way to hold on to light. And I thought about the larger lessons too, about hope, patience, and the joy of small victories. Derpy reminded me that power does not always come from strength alone. Sometimes it comes from presence, from calm persistence, from gentle attention. And I realized that even in hiding, even in exile, even under the watchful eyes of Guima, we can cultivate moments of peace and delight that cannot be taken from us. That night, under a sky swirling with impossible colors, with floating islands above and glowing rivers below, I held Derpy close, adjusting his little hammock hat once more. He purred, curled against me, and I whispered softly, "We are alive, we are free, even if just for tonight. And these moments, these memories, they are ours to keep. And you, listening quietly, remember this too. Life will always be unpredictable. Joy will sometimes be snatched away. Chaos will intrude, plans will fail, and the unexpected will appear. But if you hold on to patience, kindness, and the small sparks of magic that exist in the world around you, you can endure. You can create memories. You can find happiness, even in the most unexpected ways. And for tonight, with Derpy by my side, the city lights below, and the Geagium's soft melody drifting into the night, I am safe. And maybe, if you close your eyes quietly and listen, so are you. I need to tell you about something that never truly leaves us. The shadow that follows, always waiting. Guima. Even as we explore worlds filled with light, joy, and quiet magic, even as Derpy and I create memories worth holding on to, Guima waits, patient, calculating, relentless. It is why I whispered tonight, and why I always whisper, not only to preserve the intimacy of these moments, but because if Guima notices, it can summon me back to the demon realm, back into the darkness I've tried so hard to avoid. Every word I speak, every sound I make, must tread lightly. The music I play, the laughter we share, all must carry the weight of quiet caution. Even so, life continues, and the moments we cherish are too precious to ignore. Derpy and I have learned ways to cope with the looming threat. Sometimes it is through small, careful rituals, adjusting the glowing threads of his hanbok hat, making sure every step we take in a new world leaves no trace that could be followed. Sometimes it is through observation, studying the currents of air, the flow of magic, the subtle signs that Guima may be near. And sometimes it is simply through holding on to joy, because even when fear presses close, our memories and our happiness cannot be taken from us unless we allow it. I often remind myself of our purpose: to preserve life, to nurture hope, to hold on to the goodness that still exists. Guima is powerful, yes, but he cannot destroy the threads we weave through these worlds, the small sparks of light that we leave behind. And Derpy, he reinforces that truth every day. His alertness, his strength, his playfulness, and his ability to sense danger long before I notice it are my compass in the uncertainty that stretches endlessly before us. Sometimes I think about the fleeting nature of our peace. One moment, we explore a meadow glowing with violet flowers. The next, I feel the faintest tug in the air, a ripple that tells me Guima's attention has shifted. Derpy senses it immediately. He stiffens, ears perked, tail low, but alert. And in that moment, everything slows. Every sound, every vibration, every whisper of wind becomes meaningful. Every note I strum on my geagium carries caution as much as it carries melody. And yet, even with this tension, we find ways to preserve joy. I see it in Derpy's eyes when he chases glowing insects through floating forests, in the soft purrs that vibrate against my side as I play music, in the gentle nudge of his paw as if to remind me, even now, there is beauty. Even now, there is life. And I whisper back to him softly, reassuringly, yes, yes, we will hold on to it. We will preserve it. No matter what, there are worlds where we leave small tokens behind. Tiny memories, tiny moments of joy, a glowing feather, a ripple in the water that hums softly when touched, a tiny music note lingering in the air, like a whisper only we can hear. These are our defenses, not walls, not weapons, but reminders that even when summoned back to the demon realm, even when the darkness presses in, we have lived, we have felt, we have loved, and these threads cannot be broken, not entirely, not ever. Sometimes I whisper directly to you, so that even if Guima were near, you might hear it before he notices. I whisper that survival is not just about avoiding danger. It is about holding on to your soul, protecting your light, cultivating joy wherever it can exist. Derpy reminds me of this constantly. He shows me that power is not always in confrontation, that strength is not always in fighting, but in endurance, in observation, in preserving the fragile things that matter most. We prepare for Guima's summoning in small ways. A glance at the horizon, a stretch of his tail, a subtle shift in the music notes I play. Derpy moves with the precision of someone who has survived countless near misses, and I follow, quietly adjusting, quietly remembering all the worlds we have visited. And as we do this, I realize something crucial. The threat does not diminish the joy we have experienced. It does not erase the love, the laughter, the quiet moments of beauty. It only sharpens our awareness, only deepens the value of what we have. I think about the moments that sustain us. Derpy curling beside me, purring as I strum the geajum softly, the glow of the floating islands above us, the reflection of city lights in distant waters below. These are not just memories. They are armor, not against Guima, but against despair, against losing myself entirely. And I whispered to him softly, no matter what comes, we have this, we have each other, we have the light we've carried from world to world. And he responds with a quiet nuzzle, reminding me that hope does not need words to exist. It simply is. Even in hiding, even under threat, even knowing that Guima could summon me back at any moment, I find courage in these truths, the worlds we visit, the memories we create, the laughter and music we share. These cannot be taken from us. They are ours, indelible threads woven through the tapestry of our lives. And I whisper them to you, so that if you ever feel hunted, if you ever feel trapped by shadows too close to notice, you remember this. Joy, hope, and love are more resilient than fear. Tonight, as I sit on this rooftop, Derpy curled close beside me, the Gaiagium's soft notes mingling with the gentle night breeze, I feel a fragile peace, a peace built on awareness, on preparation, on courage, on love. And even though I know Guima's presence is never far, I feel capable of enduring, capable of holding on to light, capable of creating and preserving moments of happiness in the midst of fear. And for tonight, with the city lights below, Derpy at my side, and the music drifting through the night, I am safe. And maybe, if you close your eyes quietly and listen, so are you. And so, even as the shadows of Guima linger at the edges of our lives, we hold on to these moments. We hold on to laughter, music, and quiet memories that no darkness can take. Tonight, under the stars and the city lights, with Derpy curled close beside me, I am reminded that even in hiding, even under threat, life can still be beautiful. And that is enough to keep my soul alive.